All right, everybody. Jacob Sunstra, managing editor at fearthefin.com with Marcus White, staff writer at fearthefin, also .com, not .org, not .net,
Not
not
.ca.
.biz, not .ca. All right, we had a. Wait, I'm going to give the date again. We're going to start doing that. It's I don't know what day it is. December 21st.
First day of winter.
The winter solstice is upon us. It is a balmy 40-something degrees in Southern California right now. It's raining, actually, if you can believe it.
Oh, God, don't go on the roads.
Shut up. As if it would be any better up there. Sharks won last night, a 4-1 win over the Calgary Flames. That was fun for all of two periods. The third period, there was hockey. That did allegedly happen. For all of the, I think here it was only 12,000 butts in the seats that saw it in person at SAP Center.
14,000.
Only 14,000. Well, I, for one, welcome our San Francisco Golden Seal overlords in 2018 when they move in with the San Francisco Golden Warriors. Can't wait.
Could see it.
It's going to be great. What did you think about the game last night?
It was a good win. Nice little bounce back for the Sharks from the last loss. It definitely helps when you play a team on the second night of a back-to-back, like Calgary was, and it also helps when their coach looks like Gordon Bombay. I just wanted to work that reference in. It had no contextual meaning to the actual loss. They played really well. I think Joonas Donskoi got back on the score sheet famously. He scored 2 goals, looked pretty good. Timo Meier continues to look really, really good. He generated some dangerous chances last night. Had a partial breakaway, probably could have made a move, but he didn't. Still generated a scoring chance. He also broke out Pavelski on that partial breakaway, so he's really starting to look impressive. It was a good game. I think Jones probably wishes he got the shutout, but he continues to play extremely well for the Sharks, which is really, obviously a very good sign. And, these are the games, home game against a division rival. It's a 4-point swing basically where, if they had lost that game, Calgary makes up some ground on them in the division. Yes, the Sharks have games in hand, but they want to have that division lead. And, they're going to have another opportunity to pad that lead on Friday when they host the Edmonton McDavids.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me was just how thin the Flames are, really. And I think especially how thin they are defensively. One thing I noticed the Sharks were doing from an organization standpoint was that when the Flames tried to enter the zone, what they really want to do is have their forwards do all of the work. And you can see as they entered the zone, they really had their forwards carrying the zone in. And when the Sharks enter the zone, it seems like a lot of the times they'll have kind of the whole line enter in at the same time, and they'll get the puck back to their defenders and kind of have the defenders cycle the puck back and forth while the forwards enter the zone. Whereas Calgary kind of wants to get the puck in, cycle it back and forth between the forwards and get a quick shot off. And what I thought San Jose was able to do really well was position its forwards down in kind of the center of the ice to take away those forward passes. So what you would see is Calgary enters the zone and with a winger holding the puck. And, I saw Mikhail Bodker do this a couple times where a winger would enter the zone holding the puck. The winger would try to get the puck to the center, and Mikhail Bodker would take that pass away and then get a break going the opposite direction. And I thought that was a really nice job by both the coaching staff, which had obviously seen that on film, to highlight that, and then also by the Sharks forwards to play well defensively to kind of, to execute that. And I thought that really stymied what the Flames were trying to do offensively. It's a really fast team, and I think if you can force the Flames to stop and have to skate backwards, to have to turn around, stop their momentum going forward, to have to turn around and chase you really take away a big part of their offensive game. And I think that really put the Flames on their heels and gave the Sharks a big advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I that's a good observation. I mean, you think about their defensive group. Yeah, they have Giordano, Brody, and Hamilton, but after that, it's a pretty steep drop off. I mean, Yuri Yokopaka is a pretty good depth defenseman, but Dennis Weidman, Derek Englund, aren't very good. We had Flames fans tweeting at our account about how they missed David Schlemko. He had a little cup of coffee with the Calgary Flames at one point. So yeah, no, that's a good observation. I think they're a thin team defensively, and I think Calgary is, they're a little bit thin up front. They do have some decent depth pieces, but we were talking about before the show. I think their standings position right now is a little bit of a mirage and a product of. I mean, they've played well lately, but they've also played more games than every team in the division, and I think that's basically contributed to where they're standing right now. I don't think they're in a playoff spot right now. I'll pull up the standings very quickly. They're sitting fourth, so that would be a playoff spot right now. But the Predators have a point less than the Flames, and they have 3 games in hand. The Stars have 3 points less, and they have a game in hand. So I don't know if we're going to see a double Alberta renaissance in the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I'd be pretty surprised, to be honest. I just don't think that the Flames have quite enough this year. I wouldn't be surprised if they add a few more pieces next year and don't do anything stupid trade-wise, maybe.
I think they're close. They're close, for sure.
Yeah. It's just the big thing is that don't do anything stupid trade-wise. And with Brian Burke in charge over there, that is always on the table.
It could get
it's all. Hey, listen, man, that's a time bomb over there. It's just it's a matter of when, not if. They're a -12 in goal differential right now, and they've gotten pretty good goaltending since Chad Johnson has kind of stepped in, which I also think is probably not something that's going to be long for this world, just based on his track record. I think that they've got some really good pieces, and I think if they make smart decisions based on the pieces that they know are good, then they'll be a decent team going forward. And so it's just a matter of that. If you look at the Pacific right now, the only 2 teams with the Sharks +11 and the Oilers with the +8. The Kings are at 0 right now. Every other team is in the negatives. And that's just kind of the state of the division right now. It's not a good division anymore. It was for a few years, one of the best. Well, it was one of the best briefly. Mm-hmm. For maybe a year or 2, and then it was top heavy for a couple of years, and now it's just garbage.
Yeah.
And the Western Conference as a whole, I think it's just not very good anymore. The Blackhawks, I don't think are very good. Barring that top line. I mean, I think you even saw that in the game the Sharks played against the Blackhawks. The Sharks definitely look like a team at the end of a long road trip.
Yeah.
You can tell the Blackhawks aren't good anymore because they have to play Taves and Kane together. If you have to play Taves and Kane together, you're not a good hockey team anymore.
Yeah,
and that's just a fact, in my opinion. That is proof that they're not a Stanley Cup team anymore.
When they get Anisimov back, that'll help offset that. But yeah,
right.
I agree. Their depth is not the same as it was as it's been in previous years.
Yeah, and that's really that's what you need in order to be able to be a Stanley Cup winning team, in my opinion, in the salary cap era.
Yeah.
I just don't see them, going through that playoff gauntlet, unless Corey Crawford keeps up this ridiculous pace.
And it's what they've done so well in all their other, rebuilds on the fly. They've always had pieces ready that have taken that step and been, have assimilated in NHL duty very, very quickly. Stan Bowman's always active at the trade deadline, and I'd expect him to be this year. They have a lot of young players in their lineup, so some of them start to, it seems like they're playing better. But yeah, I didn't think they were that great against San Jose on Sunday. I think now that Crawford's down, they've got Scott Darling picking up right where he left off. So they've been getting great goaltending this year, and if that starts to slip, then it could be a rough little stretch for Chicago. And yeah, I don't expect them to go very deep in the postseason. I just think there are teams. I think the weakness of the West certainly helps them.
And I think the other thing too is that a lot of those guys that I thought might be pieces that would help them once this salary cap crunch hit them are guys that have been victims of that crunch. The Tara Vinans of the world, the Brandon Sods of the world. Those are guys that I thought those are the guys that are going to help them, and those guys are gone now.
Yeah.
It's not to say that they've done a good enough job drafting that they have some help. And I'm not familiar enough with a lot of these young guys to say for sure that they have, no chance or no hope coming up in the lineup. And Chicago fans will be quick to point out that they have a young lineup, but that young lineup has put up good Corsi numbers, but terrible Fenwick numbers. And, as someone who's a much bigger, Fenwick guy than I've ever been a Corsi guy, because I think block shots matter. I'm skeptical that that's going to really bode well for them over the long term, especially in the Western Conference when they have to play a team like the Blues that beat them last year. And I think the Blues are every bit as good this year as they were last year. And I think that's the team that they'll probably have to play in the playoffs this year, just the way that the season is going so far. So I think the playoffs are going to be interesting this year for sure, especially if some of these numbers start to kind of coalesce as the season goes on. So a lot of it kind of depends on their goaltending, though, for sure.
Yeah.
But back to the Pacific, the Sharks, like we said, play Edmonton. I believe this is for the first time on Friday.
Yes.
Which is kind of how it was last season. The Sharks, it took a really, really, really long time for them to play Edmonton for the first time last season. And McDavid very often either, because they didn't, he was hurt the first 2 or 3 times. I think they only played him once or twice last season. It should be kind of interesting, more because of the Milan Lucic factor than because of the McDavid factor. That's a guy that when he was with LA, and it doesn't really matter who he's with, it's just, human excrement. It's just, it's the kind, he's garbage. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see how the line matching goes there. The Sharks will have last change, and I'm curious to see who they try to put up against the McDavid line. I assume that they'll put the top line out against him because, you would usually think, you don't necessarily want, the speed of McDavid against the Pavelski line, but you got Lucic out there who's not that fast, and I kind of don't mind putting the physicality of like Joe Thornton out there against Lucic. I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, McDavid played 2 games against the Sharks last year. He played 1 in San Jose. He had an assist in those 2 games. I'm curious about the line matching too. I think with Lucic on, so Lucic has been playing on McDavid's line. He still is.
They did a graphic for in a game I was watching the other day, and they've really had a hard time finding a third line mate with McDavid. But the constant has basically been that they wanted to play Lucic with him because, the idea being that Lucic is his
protector or whatever.
Right. It's like The Last of Us, but imagine that they put like a third person with
right
Ellie and the dude.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what DeBoer does. DeBoer's not generally a fan of line matching. He kind of just rolls his guys.
Anybody with anybody and anybody play against anybody, you bunch of baby.
I've never seen him take a puff from a cigarette post-game press conference.
He looks like he's smoked a cigarette before. Look at that goatee.
He does. He's got a great goatee.
No, he doesn't. Well, first of all, contradiction in term.
That's the joke. It's gonna be interesting.
Don't Simpsons me.
He could because I would think even with Lucic, I mean, McDavid is just such a dangerous, fast player. The way the second line is constructed, I would even think that. I mean, it is still a big ask from LeBanc, but I would think you'd want the Couture line out against him with.
I don't.
You wouldn't. Interesting.
I don't want Milan Lucic near Logan Couture or Kevin LeBanc.
That's true. Yeah.
That's really my concern.
Couture will just troll.
Yeah, and I feel like that's correct, and I feel like that's a concern. Like I would be worried about LeBanc getting injured.
Yeah, that's fair.
Where I feel like nothing's going to happen to Joe Thornton. I'd be more worried about Milan Lucic getting the shit kicked out of him.
Lucic isn't going to take a run at Thornton, Pavelski, and or Marleau. And I think you have enough. You have some speed on that line to count. I mean, I don't think Marleau has the same transition capabilities that McDavid does, but in theory, the speed would match well.
But if you put those guys out there with Martin and Vlasic, and you're good to go.
Right. Yeah. No. And I think you're going to see Did you say Martin and Vlasic?
Sorry, Braun and Vlasic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and I think
Right.
McDavid's gonna. He will match. DeBoer won't match.
Yeah,
his
but
lines,
he'll
will
match
his
pairings. Yeah,
And
exactly.
Vlasic is gonna see a heavy dose of Connor McDavid.
Right.
I'd be interested to see if Burns sees any time against him too, because I think the speed. Burns is the best skating defenseman that the Sharks have, and with McDavid so dynamic in transition. Yeah, I think the Thornton line though. I think you make some good points. I think that's the best matchup. But I think you're probably going to see you're going to see a few of the lines against McDavid. I'm excited for that game. I think it's going to be we haven't really seen him come to San Jose at all. He came once last year, but now it's like, okay, he's starting to he's kind of made that leap this season with how well he's played, and we haven't seen him since he's made that leap. It's annoying that he's in the division and that he's going to be in the division for the next however many years, but considering how poorly Edmonton's assembled a roster around him, I don't know if that's too concerning. Still don't think they should have traded Taylor Hall. That's just my take. I mean, if you want another winger for Connor McDavid, like Taylor Hall could have been.
Taylor Hall probably would have been a good choice.
Yeah, exactly. He might not have been a right winger, but then you could have played Hall with McDavid and Eberle. But they really wanted Milan Lucic, and good for them. Got Taylor Hall out of the division. So yeah, I'm very excited to see that the tactics that DeBoer chooses to employ. I mean, the last time we saw a player really of that McDavid caliber, the Sharks lost 5-0 when Sidney Crosby scored 2 goals without really shooting on net. So the Oilers are not as good as the Penguins, that's for sure. But the Sharks will definitely have their hands full with the 2015 first overall pick.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too to remember when we're talking about line matchups is that the board doesn't generally. He doesn't line match, but he will try to deploy the top line in the offensive zone as much as possible, and yes, that goes for Burns as well. So that would be my thing, is that and I don't know how McClellan is deploying McDavid, but I would bet you that he gets a lot of offensive zone starts. I guess is that he's willing to play him anywhere. Not that he's like sheltering him or anything, but just because he's so good that, you want him to get a lot of offensive zone time is all I'm thinking.
Yeah. I didn't really shelter the top lines, did he? They got healthy dose here, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah, because I think he actually used the Pavelski line as more of a scoring line as when Pavelski was the third line center, right? In the year that they did that, right? And I think DeBoer kind of does that a little bit sneakily too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not an uncommon trick in the NHL, is to kind of sneak out your third line as that, and use your second line as your shutdown line at times. I think that's not totally uncommon. So yeah, I think that will be interesting. That's going to be fun, and it'll be fun to see Todd McClellan back at SAP Center. That's always kind of nice.
Yeah, I mean, the most successful,
see what happens. Yeah, I mean, it's the most successful Sharks coach of all time. So, and a coach that comes back and hasn't been more successful after he left San Jose. So that's nice. So, he who shall not be named. Yep, and that was who I was thinking of. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, no problem.
Yep. So then after Friday, the Sharks will head to Anaheim the Tuesday following. So kind of a nice break period for the Sharks. So let's talk about juniors, which start on Monday. Monday? Am I crazy? No.
Yes, Monday, Boxing Day.
Monday. Right. The Sharks are going to have, it sounds like, just one player, because they only have 3 players, I believe, eligible, and only one that sounds like it's going to be on a roster. And I apologize if I am butchering this poor boy's name. I believe it's Carlis is the first name, and I believe it's Cooksey. I believe it is. So let's see. It's spelled Cukste. He's a Latvian. Was born in Riga. went to high school though at West Aurora in Illinois. He's actually at Quinnipiac right now, a freshman defender, drafted in the 5th round of the 2015 draft. So he's got, I just had his point total up here just a second ago. Give me 1 second. He's got 9 points right now in 19 games, which isn't terrible for a defender. So he's playing in the United States group. That's going to be, that tournament this year is in Canada, which is nice because that means that the games will actually be on at times that we can watch them. Because last year they were on at the crack of dawn, and I did not watch much of any of them live, certainly. And so there you go.
First
so
game
we'll
plays
have
against Team USA too, and that'll be broadcast on NHL Network,
which is great for all 15 of us to get the channel. So I'm not saying that there are ways to stream that illicitly on the internet, but I'm sure that there are, and I'm sure that you can find the way. Not through our website, but through other websites.
We don't condone it, though.
Nope. And I certainly won't be doing that.
No.
No way. That is wrong.
Yep.
Stealing. Marcus, are you excited? Do you watch this tournament usually?
It depends. I mean, I'll sometimes watch the big games. I think the last one I really watched was when, John Carlson scored that no-look overtime game winner when he didn't look at the net and we beat Canada. I'm certainly more interested when there are Sharks prospects playing. I didn't watch in 2015 when Mueller played. I think Meyer played in a World Junior
last year.
I didn't watch last year, but I'm honestly, I think I'm a little more excited to watch now that we kind of have a more obscure prospect.
Yeah, that we're not getting a chance to see. Yeah, although maybe we should be watching a little more of this guy since he's playing for a big time college. I mean, they're on ESPN3 all the time, so
we could get some chances there, and I'll probably start trying to watch him more. He didn't make our top 25 under 25. He's a 5th round pick from a year ago in 2015. Excited to. I mean, he's Latvia historically they don't typically send great teams to the World Juniors, so he's going to be in a bit of a sink or swim situation. He's in a very good group. So we're going to see him against the US. We're going to see him against Russia.
We're not going to get a whole lot of chances to see him is really the thing. So take advantage of the few games he's going to play because this is going to be he's not getting out of the group stage.
And they're going to play Canada too. So we're going to get a chance to see him against very good competition in his peer group. It's going to be always a good evaluator. It's always nice when the Sharks have somebody there. I think a lot of their prospects have probably aged out of playing in the World Juniors. Like you said, I mean, is Timo's even too old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, no, because he could have been an overager in junior this year, I think.
Isn't he born in like 95? Am I wrong?
But he's only 20, I think.
No, he's born in 96, so he's too old.
Okay, I thought he because he's an overager. He still could be an overager in junior, so I thought he would.
Yeah, you have to be born in 97 or later. Yeah,
really? God,
yeah,
I feel so old.
You are old. Yeah, you're ancient.
Thank you. You're welcome. So yeah, no, it's gonna be very interesting to see. I'm excited. I have not watched him play at all.
Me neither.
So I'm excited to watch him for the first time. And then the World Junior is usually a good tournament. I don't know what to expect. I know Canada's won the last couple, and I'm sure they're expecting to win again. But it's always fun when they don't. That's what I really enjoy. The meltdowns and the takes that flow after Canada doesn't win a World Junior are always very overreactionary, and I'm kind of hoping for that again.
I think it's a fun tournament because it's generally a more even mixture of talent. Because I think it's just it makes I've always feel like the World Cups and the Olympics aren't really a fun tournament. They're pretty boring because there's usually one or two teams that are good. And the gaps between the teams are pretty big. It's not fun. Whereas World Juniors, even if there's teams that are definitely better in talent-wise, the gaps are much smaller, so the games are a lot more competitive.
Well, and they're all so young that like anything, it's like why in March Madness in college basketball, like so much crazy stuff happens because a lot of these one-off situations when you have, 18 to, in this case, you're going to have, 17 to 20-year-olds, pretty much that's a recipe for upsets. It's a recipe for excitement. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a good point about the even distribution of talent.
Right. Absolutely. All right. And then let's briefly also talk about Joel Ward got scratched for the second time last night.
Yep.
David Schlemko also got scratched, although I think we should only briefly mention that because I think there's a chance that had something to do with perhaps a nagging injury. That's kind of the feeling I got from reading Twitter, and friend of the blog, Kevin Kurtz, didn't exactly call it a healthy scratch. So I'm speculating a little bit, but I'm not, don't have the confidence to call that a healthy scratch. So an eye on that one, and won't say any more on that quite yet. But Joe Ward was absolutely a healthy scratch. So what do you think about that? That's 2 healthy scratches in 3 games.
Very surprising, I think, to see it happen again. I thought he played well in Chicago, and even DeBoer mentioned that he played well in Chicago. I think you made a good point that when Ward's not scoring, they seem to prefer the look Haley brings on the fourth line. That just seems to be their preference. It seems odd to have scratched him again and kind of sent that message. I mean, I think it, but I think it's also a matter of different expectations. They have different expectations for Michael Haley that they do for Joel Ward. That's just how it is, as simply as possible. I was very surprised to see him not play, even with the reduced expectations, because I think, yes, maybe the money is a little too much, but if Joel Ward is playing on your fourth line, your roster's in pretty good shape. Even with Joel Ward's struggles to score this year, I think he's still played well. He's not getting as much power play time as he did last year. In last year, he was on a bit of a hot streak. Now he's, the opposite. He's on a bit of a cold streak. So I was definitely surprised to see him scratched. I got to think he's probably going to play Friday against Edmonton, although I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't, because the Sharks won and DeBoer typically likes to keep the same lineups. But it's a situation where you hope that it's not and these guys have supreme confidence, but you hope and even a guy at Ward's age, I don't think it would be, but you hope it's not a confidence killer, so to speak, when he comes back in the lineup, that he's going to try and do too much, or that he wants to impress the coaching staff. Because, this is a situation I don't think Ward's really been in since the beginning of his NHL career. And he can certainly draw on that, and he can draw on his experience, as a guy from a non-traditional background. I mean, he's one of the few guys in the NHL who played hockey, Canadian college hockey, not college hockey in the US. He played college hockey in Canada, and he made it to the NHL. So I was surprised. I don't think long-term that's a smart decision. It worked last night. I think Haley played okay, but like I said, I think the fourth line is it's much better, and your depth much better if Joel Ward's playing on your fourth line than if Michael Haley's playing on your fourth line. But I also think DeBoer's hand's been forced a little bit with the emergence of Meyer and LeBanc. I don't think he's not pushed out of the lineup without both of those guys up here. So, you hope to see the healthy scratch end, but the Sharks did win in his absence last night. I don't think it's a very sustainable approach to their lineup. Certainly not one I'd want to see. I certainly wouldn't want to see that decision made in a postseason game and see Joel Ward scratched for Michael Haley.
Yeah. So can this become long term? The Sharks owe him another $3 million next year.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is a contract that's not movable.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They can only bury $950,000 of it if you waive him.
Yeah.
They can't afford to eat that salary. I mean, I just don't see they don't really have an option other than to healthy scratch. I just don't see what the long-term plan is here if they're going to keep scratching him every night.
Yeah.
And I think basically the gist of it is that, yeah, they feel like they are not scratching Joe Ward for Michael Haley. They're scratching Joe Ward for Timo Meyer. That's basically what's happening. They feel like Michael Haley is spot than Joe Ward is basically the way I understand it. And they feel like Michael Haley is bringing a different game than Joe Ward is. That to me is the way I understand it, and I would like to see that question posed to DeBoer straight up, to have that confirmed. But that seems to be what's happening. I think that's a pretty colossal mistake. Whether that assumption is true or not true, and I think it's a mistake the Sharks can't afford to make, both financially and from a hockey standpoint. And I just don't really see where they go from here if that's one they're going to make on a consistent basis. I also don't know what it, I try not to get into the kind of armchair psychologist perspective here, but what that says to the rest of the guys in the dressing room. You know what? I think that so much of this, the traditional dialogue that surrounds this kind of stuff is, oh, he's only got 2 goals. Guys got to be accountable. Whatever. Michael Haley hasn't scored this year.
That's the thing.
3 NHL goals in his career.
Yeah,
I don't understand. I just don't understand what he has done this year. That's more than what Joe Ward has done this year.
Yeah, I don't think Haley's been bad. I think he's even surpassed my expectations a little bit. I think, it's a little bit goes to some, maybe some, and I'm not saying this is a negative, but maybe some, talking out of the side of the mouth a little bit. I think they still want the physicality of a fourth line, and they want that sort of traditional look to a fourth line. I think you jokingly tweeted that they're just deathly against rolling 4 scoring lines at this point. And yeah, I mean, because objectively, if Ward's not scoring enough, then, Michael Haley isn't either, and he hasn't necessarily been asked about it. But if you're saying Ward's not scoring enough and Haley's still in the lineup, then you just have different expectations for Michael Haley than you do Joel Ward. That's okay. They're different players, but it's hard to then use that as a justification to keep Ward out of the lineup when you're carrying 14 forwards.
Right. Yep.
So
I mean, it's the same logic applies for Matt Nieto. Obviously, it doesn't make any sense there either, and it makes even less sense though for Joe Ward, because Joe Ward's a more physical player than Matt Nieto.
Yeah, and
I
think Joe Ward is a better player than Matt Nieto.
Oh, absolutely, without question, he's a better player.
Yeah,
I have no doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
and from a money perspective, Joe Ward's getting paid more than Matt Nieto. You can send Matt Nieto down, without a problem, really. I mean, you get rid of most of his cap hit.
Yeah.
So I really don't know if there's some kind of behind the scenes type thing that's happening here where they're having a problem that they feel like they need to address. But I feel like somebody's gotta ask Pete DeBoer what the deal is, because this, from what we can see from our perspective, it seems like an indefensible decision. And so I think Pete DeBoer should be at least given the opportunity to defend it. Because I certainly can't explain it, even from, just trying to get, trying to put myself into his position and try to give him a fair shake.
Ward has a modified no trade. He's making $3.275 this year and next year. I think that'd be a hard contract to move.
That's unmovable.
And I think we're maybe getting a little too far ahead of ourselves too. It has only been 2 games. You gotta worry about you have to worry about the possibilities. I'm saying I'm getting too far ahead by listing that he has a modified no trade. I'm not trying to imply that he's going to demand a trade. I'm just saying that his contract at 36 years old with a year left on it and with a modified no trade would be hard to move if the Sharks wanted to move it.
Yep. I'd say nearly impossible. But
frankly, I think
if you're
stupid to move it.
Right. But if you're Joe Ward, I mean, at this point, you wouldn't blame him for asking for one.
Oh, if it becomes extended, I wouldn't blame him at all. Yeah.
And he's got every right to ask for one at this point. It's not like even from like the, old rules of hockey, it's got every right. It's not like Dylan DeMello where he's got no, whatever.
He's
Doesn't
got
have
no
the
cachet.
right, exactly. Joe Ward, dude. Joe Ward, earned his way here. Like you said before. Joe Ward has every right to walk into Doug Wilson's office and be like, "All right, listen, if I'm not going to play,
yeah,
you're going to trade me. All right, that this is what's happening. All right."
Yeah.
So, I'll probably write something about this today just to kind of lay out the what the situation is and kind of see if we can get some. Hopefully, we'll get some more perspective on this on Friday. When the Sharks host the Oilers. And all right. So I guess that's pretty much it for now. We'll do another one of these at some point over the next week and a half or so, because it's going to be a little bit slow. Until then, you can follow us on Twitter at Fear the Fin, Marcus on Twitter at Marcus P. White.
Yep.
I'm on Twitter at Jake Sundstrom. And I think that's pretty much it. Hey, we got our tickets just recently for Fear the Fin night. You can get yours. That post is like tagged or linked or whatever on our site at fearthefin.com. It's on the bottom right corner of the front page. So it'd be cool. You should go. It'll be fun. Is that it? I think that's it. Okay. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes if you prefer. You do you. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.